So the feminine principle has to protect also. She can protect by saying, don't go there. I picked up a message. I picked up a signal.
Right.
Don't pick up that phone. Don't go out. That's the feminine principle of protection.
What does a sacred relationship look like as far as a man's duty and a woman's duty within that relationship?
Relationship means exactly that, relationship, to move, right? So you have to be moving. And the question becomes, where you moving to? In the initial courting of a partnership is when you seed the garden of conscience, you start to really climatize to one another. But then it requires you to feed and build and both tend to the garden. Now, there's a third thing that happens in a relationship when the two come together. There's another body that's created called the union. So the union must be fed, right? And the union not is only fed by how the women and men are loving each other and doing the task to feed the union, but it's his commitment to himself upon the time he attracted the magnetism of the relationship and her continue to do her work. Because somewhere in their development, they were doing something to magnetize to each other. What happens in relationships, we get so caught up in the romanticization of the exchange that we forget initially what was necessary for that spark to be continued to be cultivated. What works with me and my beloved is that she is on her life path and task. And then I come in and I support her on her vision and her ministry in the world and how she does her vibrational work. So I find that the production of us pouring into each other's task, it fortifies the union. That is not me and you, right? So the union is fed energetically and spiritually. And so when her ego was there or my ego was there, we fought out of harmony, out of ma'at. The union has a cachet, enough stored up energy to remind us of why we're here, remind us why we're on task, remind us why we're relating and shipping and where we're moving to.
Higher purpose. I think connections are very shallow nowadays, and that, love is not enough to keep people together. You understand me? I think there has to be a vision, there has to be faith, there has to be something that connects you, because love has different peaks and valleys.
Women being an example of a home, and you mentioned about relationships and peaks and valleys. If we can remember that we have to be working men and women for ourselves and with each other. I'm a cultivator, you're a cultivator, and we're coming together to expand or make abundant.
It makes people only think of love and connection to emotion. You understand me? As a feeling. And so there's no connection between the logic of love, you understand me, or the thought process from that crown, that higher thought process. So people only activate love from here. And so when this is not being fed from an emotional level, then the love is gone, because that's how you've defined it. But when it's a duty, then you think about all the other parts that need to be tended to as well in order for this to actually be a love connection.
Come on.
So I think the symbolism of love has probably sold us the wrong idea. Through movies and Disney and all of these different things. Like, if you got the concepts of love through entertainment, you understand me, then you're trying to entertain yourself through love by the time you get into it, because you're looking for Prince Charming, you're looking for these fairy tale stories that don't exist, because love can be war, love can be peace. But what keeps the people together through that? You understand me? That thread right there is love, that duty that each person has to each other, that cultural responsibility that you have, whatever you're building. It's like, you can be building something and then a person get tired and say, I'm done. And it's like, no, we still got to get this done, but I don't feel like it. Well, damn, it wasn't about whether you love to do it. Like, we got a duty. When it's a family or it's nation building, it's a much bigger duty than how you may feel this week. Two people come together, right? They say 1 + 1 = 2, right? And I think that's when you have two people that are working just as individuals. Because when two individuals come together, it's just two. But when you're working together to build something, 1 + 1 = 3, right? In the family model, right? And so each relationship has to be producing a third entity in order for me to see it as like a powerful, productive relationship. Otherwise, it's just two people coming in together to just energize each other to be the same. Right, but what is it producing?
What is it producing?
Because men and women come together to produce something. Like, we are born functionally and biologically to work in service of each other that produces something when we come together, right? Whether it's sexually, spiritually, whether it's financially, we're creating something. And I think that's probably the lost art, is that men and women come together and they only think about each other and how they are in service of each other, but not what they're building. And what you build are gonna hold that connection much stronger than it's just you.
Yeah.
Because now you're like, nah, I got too much to lose. I can't do this. I got to do this, that, and the third. We building this whole empire over here.
Absolutely.
This video is sponsored by Eve Rabash's Patreon.
I can tell you guys, content creation is a game changer. But the thing is, you got to be patient. You got to be able to put in the work day after day, time after time, in order to get what you want in life. I've really looked at my experience. I've looked at what I've gone through, and I'm like, you know what? I can start helping people now. I can help people become content creators because I have found so many gems, so much knowledge. I mean, come on, the record speaks for itself. You go head out on my YouTube channel and you see what I'm doing out there. We are doing numbers. YouTube shorts are going crazy. My vlogs are going crazy, dropping every single day. I love you guys, man. I want you to grow. I want you to see a pathway for yourself. There's no limit to what you can achieve and where you are going. And if you're really serious about content creation, if you're really serious about being a YouTuber, I got the gems and I'm giving them away on my Patreon.
Women are now getting more empowered. The men are now getting more empowered. Many of them were coming to divorce, and that was their last call. You become a whole woman, and you take time to heal your condition, yourself, your body, mind, your spirit, forgive your mother's 7 generations back, and move forward. And then the man is doing the same thing. Now they come together on purpose, empowered, cleaned up, not enraged from their past, but feeling empowered, becoming entrepreneurs, making their own money, being creative. All of that together now, we're building healthy families. When you know who you are as a woman and you know who you are as a man, then all you can do is birth healthy relationships. We won't have to break down. We just have nothing but breakthroughs now.
People don't really want to do the work, especially like unrepairables, right? And you can do it for the child, but you got to do it for yourself first. You can't do it for nobody else. You understand me? And I think what happens all the times of why a lot of change don't last is we do it for everybody else but ourselves. Right? If you get in a relationship with somebody and then maybe she wants to start changing for you or doing some things, but then when she gets into another relationship, she changes into another person, right? Instead, you have to find out reasons to do things for yourself, because that's going to last regardless of who you with, whether you by yourself or you with someone else. That's a true change, right? A true evolution. And I think that, you know, we've gotten very good in society at just shape shifting, you understand me, from one person to another, making everybody feel comfortable without actually knowing ourselves. And the healing process is such a lost art as well, that we don't know how to heal from the smallest things. And so instead of, you know, healing through things, we try to ignore them. You understand me? And see if we can just go through them instead of actually heal through them. You understand me? And I think that that's something, especially when I see baby mothers and fathers, and oftentimes people regret that they didn't make it work, or regret that this person went on to be successful without them, or regret that they were immature to not see what they had, or regret the fact that they slept with each other and weren't mature enough to think about consequences. And they start blaming each other. They take all of that fire that starts to build up and they throw it at each other and they blame each other for all of the issues. And so that forgiveness, I know, first starts with accountability. You know, that when you take a look around 360 at your situation, that all of this is manufactured by your own actions. You know, and that may be hard for people to swallow. They say, well, this person did this, that, and the third. Well, those are not things you can control. The one thing you can control is accountability for where you are right now. And in this moment, if you become accountable, then you take extreme ownership. And through extreme ownership, now you have extreme control. You have that ability to release yourself from the contracts that hold you. Because trauma is like a contract, it's stuck in you until you release yourself. But without reviewing it, you don't even know what's in the contract. You don't know what binded you to that pain in the first place. And you constantly relive it. And so sometimes a person's physical presence becomes a trigger just within itself, right? Because that might have been the last relationship where you made the most mistakes. You understand me? But instead of taking internal accountability, that person is a representation. It was their fault, not mine. I didn't do anything. I wasn't immature, and it's the same thing, relationships, to where we also get into them sometimes, and it's like, people have to think they have to hate their ex, you know, and I think that's a sad and it's toxic. That almost everybody is somebody's ex. You understand me? Some people that matured, they did better and living better, but there's an immaturity in society where people feel like they can't, you know, be happy for this person that progressed and now is treating someone else better. You understand me? But that's the selfishness, and that's a narcissism that exists. So I got a question that probably, you know, is not asked a lot for women, right? But do women have an ego? because I don't think that society ever deals with the reality, because we talk about men all the time, you know what I'm saying? We already did that, we're gonna go more. But the reality of it is this though, and especially in a way of today's society where women are climbing in the job sector and the business sector and becoming more successful in the man's world, right? They're at the top of these companies, political positions and things of that nature. And I know that requires a masculization of self, which also requires an ambition and requires an ego. But not only the question is twofold, do they have an ego, and what do feminine narcissism look like?
It's not about domination of your masculine side or your feminine side.
Right.
It's about bringing them together.
Right.
It's Ast. She sits on her seat of power. Asar, within you, the masculine side sits on his seat of power within us. We have the right brain. That's the place of creativity and meditation and prayers, intuition. And then we have the left side of us that brings the finance and creates an environment of a home. And that's inside of us. If you don't become sovereign within yourself, then you're just going to recreate the same relationship outside of yourself that is out of balance again. So it's really not the fault of outside. The relationships are all extensions of our consciousness, of our thoughts, of our feelings, of our lack, of our abundance. So if you keep blaming on the outside, you'll always be disempowered. But what she's saying is what she is creating. She's creating the environment from even the deadly environment of thinking the thoughts of anger and rage and pain inside. So what is she speaking out into the world? What is she speaking to her children? What is she speaking to her home? Okay. Then she goes in, that's word medicine. That's womb medicine. Then you have food as medicine, and you learn how to eat foods from the garden so you find your inner peace. Tapping into your power and using your meditation to see your vision and make it a reality, and you hold on to your bricks, your purpose, and then you bear down and you birth yourself, and yourself will bring you your wealth. So going from gateway to gateway to gateway, that is how you become a whole woman. And as you become a whole woman, you'll attract a whole man.
And she's working on her Godhead, and I'm working on my Godhead. I will submit and humble, because God will bless upon me the active duty tenet.
So is she submitting to the God? Oh, so he submits to God. She submits to the God within him that he's submitting to.
This video is sponsored by Eve Rabash's Patreon.
So your ability to produce and move and your will, as far as how you move throughout reality and motion as a human being, that's your willpower, right? And if you submit that, so now for your movement and your mission is all for God, and that God is that goodness, that higher consciousness, and divineness. So if a man is in movement of that, then she sees that. Then he tells her, like, this is what I'm submitting to. This is my vision. And she said, oh, I like that. As long as you on that mission, I can, because the woman has all the cosmic ingredients to give birth to anything.
Absolutely.
She can provide all of the nurturing necessary in order for you to complete that.
Absolutely.
So as he's submitting here, you understand me? She's submitting to what he submits to, mostly, but through him, right? And then he's internally taking back and saying that you have the power to help me produce that godhood and that mission outward into reality. So there's a reciprocal effect that goes in, and then that's where the respect lies. You understand me? But there's too many men that have no mission, no vision, nothing they submit to, and then they want someone else to submit to them. And then there are women that don't know how to nurture anything. They only know how to take from something, not how to help something produce more. And I think that that's the lost balance in art in the reality of human beings, but specifically men and women, because now we make it a combat.
I submit to the divine presence of the Most High. And I don't see the man as the head. I don't see the woman as the head. I think if you wake up and you come up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you pray and you meditate and you get a vision, and then you bring it to the family, and if the family's in tune, they will receive it. That can come from the feminine principle, it can come from the masculine principle. And if we stay in tune one to another, it's an ocean, it's an ebb and flow of respect, of honor. You have this, I have that, I'm picking up this, you picking up that, and then we move that energy together. And that to me is the submission to the divine presence that's in every cell of the woman and in every cell of the man.
That's all we're saying.
And that's superpower. So the feminine principle has to protect also. She can protect by saying, don't go there. I picked up a message. I picked up a signal. Don't pick up that phone. Don't go out. That's the feminine principle of protection. The masculine's gonna come out there with a sledgehammer and take somebody out. So sometimes it's necessary to go there. So it's like knowing the vibration, the frequency of what you're working with, everybody gotta kick in.
Right.
It ain't about just me gonna stand there and just let it happen. It's not about him being unconscious and saying, well, what's happening, just go crazy. We have to actually bring both left and right brain together to protect one another.
You said something about intuition, right? That woman's intuition is that protecting God, right? Like a man may have a big vision, but she has the details. You know what I mean? That's often what I think about. And often why like a woman may see things that you may not see within yourself.